Before we go into public input, I'd like to say a little bit about a good friend of mine. This past weekend on Saturday, Judge John Mateo, passed away. I believe in complications from treatment for cancer. I have not heard from his family yet, so I don't know that for sure, but he was in the hospital for cancer treatment and didn't come out. John was a friend for many years. He was a prosecutor in my court and the other court for a while. When Sarah Speranza moved up, John became my partner. And I was partner with John for several years. And he was still running the court today. I think he was 18 years here in the town court, if I recall. He had served his country. When he got out of the service, he went to law school, graduated from the University of Buffalo, and I think his first job was with Niagara County as a public defender way back when. So he worked for the county for several years, and he eventually went into private practice and later came back here to the town to work as town justice while he was still running his own office. He's had a tough couple of years. First of all, his wife Barbara died, I think 2012, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. She died from cancer. John had a few battles of his own, but he always kept cool. He was always a good friend. He was always the type of person who didn't get excited. Didn't matter what was before him here at the bench. He didn't yell or get crazy. I do remember one night, I recall one night, that he told us he was sitting here and he was waiting for attorneys and waiting for attorneys, and finally he said to hell with it. He got up and he walked off. He went for a walk around the building and came back a little while later, and everybody's saying, "Where are you? Where are you, John?" "You're not ready for me, I'm not ready for you." And that's about as excited as I've ever heard him get. But I'll miss John. Public input, Brian? Okay. All right.
Hello. I had emailed you with 2 of those questions you were going to ask Matt about. In regards to the landfill lawsuits against the town, what is the current total of letters of intent to sue? And what is the current dollar estimate for the lawsuits that have already been initiated?
The letter of intent, and Bob did forward that on to me, but
Could you speak up a little?
Let me turn the microphone on. Yes, Bob did forward that information to me. Your questions, when it came to letters of intent, and that was one of the reasons I didn't get back right away. I wanted to figure out how to phrase it. We're not being served with letters of intent.
176?
No, we've got notice of claims there, and those are notices of possible intent to sue. Now, not all of those have been acted on, as far as I can tell. I believe there is a neighborhood of, I don't have it offhand, but around 150. It may be up to a little bit more. I'm not sure if it's 176, as you say, but it's probably around 150.
How many was that? I'm sorry.
About 150 to 160 is my best recollection.
Okay, because I thought back in the spring it was at 165.
I don't know exactly. Somewhere in that neighborhood. As I say, not all of them have been acted upon. Most of the ones that we were concerned with are the ones that have been brought into a lawsuit, and there were a couple, I can't remember exactly how many that were added on. There was a motion in county court in front of Judge Sheldon in order to add some more onto the lawsuit and change them from claims. That was granted a month or so ago by Judge Sheldon. So altogether, I think we're in the neighborhood of 150 to 160, somewhere in that neighborhood of the notice of claims, a little bit less that have actually been brought to suit.
Okay. And then the dollar amount estimate for the ones that have been initiated?
Well, we don't, when you say estimate, we don't have an estimate of what they're worth, like what they...
I know that that'll change, but like, you know, the original...
Well, it depends. They have in each notice of claim, each individual, and all the notice of claims are from the same plaintiff attorney. Each one has asked for $50 million off the top, and then if they are a married couple, the way they formed it is each married couple asks for an extra $10 million for their loss of consortium with their spouse. So per person, they've asked between $50 million to $60 million per person. Now you can multiply that times those claims, and that'll come to a total number. But at this point, we've seen, I mean, when you say an estimate, we as far as what we classify, we have no ability to classify because they really have not presented us with any quantitative damages. That's just what they said it was worth, but we're trying to still figure out what's actually out there.
Okay. Art and Bob, I just wanna say thank you for your service to, the town, and I wish you both luck, and I'm hoping you're both able to enjoy your retirement.
Thank you
You're
very much,
welcome.
Lloyd. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to the board? Or to the town through the board? Okay, if nobody wishes to speak, then we'll move on. For the record, Kathy, all members are present. We do have a set of minutes, gentlemen, from the December 4th meeting. Need a motion to move those in for approval?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Randy, second by Art. Any changes anybody wishes to recommend? If not, all in favor of approving signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? They are approved. We do have a series of vouchers. Voucher total is $253,310 and no cents. The voucher numbers 2017-2264 through 2384. Does anybody wish to move these in for payment?
So moved.
Moved by Gil, we need a second.
Second.
Second by Art. Any bills that anybody wishes to hold? If not, then all in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved. Paul's here? What's going on in Highway, Paul? Thank you.
Paul, is there any type of suggestion you have with the catch basins that, could up their life expectancy?
Thank you, Paul. Anything else for Paul? Go ahead. Next would be Rich, Water Sewer. Thanks for what you do, Rich. Yep. Anything for Rich? Recreation, Mike Rinaldi.
Good evening. I got a couple of things going on. First, Nerf night tomorrow night and Friday night the 22nd. That will be the last evening of our activities for the fall. We will convene back in January. We also are accepting openings still for our day camps that we're going to be running next week while the kids are off from school. That runs from December 26th to the 29th, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the last thing, I received a phone call from a friend of the department, Don D. He sits on the picnic committee, and he had a 9-foot Christmas tree that wasn't being used, and he wanted to donate that to the town. So I wanted to publicly thank Don. I know a few years ago he donated the flat screen we got on the card out there, so thank you, Don. And Art and Bob, just want to appreciate everything you guys have done for the department and for me. So appreciate everything. You guys, good luck.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Guys, anything for Mike?
Just like to say, good job on the Christmas party for the kids, Mike.
Yeah, that was great.
Kids really enjoyed themselves. You had a lot of real nice turnout for it.
Bridget, anything going on in assessor's office? Now, we did talk just before the meeting about the star checks. I've not received mine. I haven't found anybody yet who's received them. Has anybody actually received their star check? Because I was asked by a couple of seniors at the senior luncheon, because they hadn't got it. And I don't know why. I guess we don't have an answer at this point. Yeah, maybe we, if you can get an answer, we could always throw it up on the website. send it to Dave and Mia, and whatever, but that's a great idea.
Have other municipalities received them? Or is it just nobody's received them yet?
You know, it may only be $100 or $150 for a lot of people, but for a lot of those people, they count on it. They count on it. Thank you, Bridget. Arlene is not here this evening, so we're up to Tim. Oop, I'm sorry. Kathy just barked in my ear. I have you marked off already, Mike. Anything going on with building? Maybe I can turn Art into my euchre partner or something. There you go. I did see a couple of new houses going up. The first one over at Aiden Estates. How many new houses we got going on now? Anything for Mike? Matt, I think we're up to Tim. I keep checking off too early.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but all we have is a planning board report. But we've only had one meeting since the last town board meeting, and there were no agenda items. So
I like it.
There's my planning board report. Are there any questions? Any other questions?
Well, you had mentioned before about the fence, that the fence is now done.
Yes, they come.
So the landfill fence is fully completed. It's not paid for yet. We haven't received the bill for it yet.
Correct.
It's already been cut into once. Signs are up. Lori, you had asked about a sign on the entrance naming that it's chemicals and stuff.
Not naming the chemicals, but that it's a toxic area.
Tim had been working with DEC, and they're reluctant to do that at this point because they haven't finalized their testing yet.
That fence got fixed literally overnight.
By the people that were working there on the punch list, yeah.
I was out there on Friday with them, walked right back there, and
I went by Thursday, it was fine. I went by Friday morning, and that thing was just jammed right in.
well, you know what, and they didn't have to do that either, but they're like, you know, we can't. Even though somebody came and vandalized the job, they said we gotta fix it before we leave.
When I went by
So.
Saturday, I was gonna take pictures. It was fixed, but they have a no trespassing sign on it. So.
There's a guy that has a, what do you call it, for deer, a deer stand in a tree. And it's probably him, but we don't know that. We haven't caught him.
The funny part is that I have not met with National Fuel and the DEC to get our daisy chain locks on the fences yet. And if whoever cut through the fence would have walked about 200 feet down, there was a gate that had no lock on it, so.
They're going in on the right side now, the utility property on the right.
Yeah, sure.
They're like those turnstile type things, they're pushing through that.
Oh, well. That's it, Tim?
So that's it for me, other than, like everybody else, wishing you guys all the best for your future. It's been a long time. It's been several years, and it's been great working with you and getting to know you. I hope you're not strangers and that you're still hanging around.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tim, I got just a question. Are we still allowing concrete brick, or is that all cast-in-place concrete on catch basins?
What my understanding is from our recent subdivisions that GHD has been out inspecting, that we've been requiring them to use concrete to fill them all the way up to the frame. So as we go through this winter and update our specs, we'll update that accordingly. The last update we did to them was to not allow regular masonry bricks, but to only allow the concrete DOT pavers, because they were supposed to be nice and strong. But now they're going to.
Yeah, so many of those
that
roads
as
are
well.
put in on backfill and, you know, soft soils, and it probably moves around too much those first few years.
Well, this is just what what is used to get the frame and grate sitting on the catch basins up to their final elevations. And hopefully they're getting their catch basins close enough so that that adjustment is very minor, but when they have to put that much in, I totally agree. Either form it up and pour it as all poured concrete, or to get the solid grade rings, stick them right on top. They make them indifferent.
Too much salt, huh?
Yeah.
And as far as the sewer, you did the report, and Richie's gonna take a look at that. Is any recommendation as to how we can not have as many problems in the future? I mean, I know Spaceric is probably 20, 25 years, but I mean, is there a recommendation in the future that we can maybe minimize some of these failures?
Well, most of the things that they picked out on there were what looks like there's a lot more water coming in, or I don't even want to say water, liquid we'll say, 'cause I'm not sure if it's true sanitary waste or water. So they'll see things that are flowing a little bit longer and stronger than they should be, and they'll mark that down as being suspicious. Maybe somebody's got a sump pump connected in their roof drain or something. That's something that the water sewer department can go and do a little bit more investigation in. I believe we had 2 of them on there where we had cut-in taps to the sanitary. There's either factory taps where they actually put in a T when they're building the line, where they know where there's going to be a service, or there's cut-in ones where a service gets put in where it wasn't expected. And out of 2 of those cut-in ones, it looks like it's leaking around the actual cut-in part of the T. So other than digging that up and seeing what's wrong with that, there's not much you can do with that. So it's really looking for these signs of gushers, looking for cracks. We had no cracked pipes. There was one pipe that had a really minor dent on it, but it wasn't enough to restrict flow. There's some sags. Again, the cost of fixing a sag in a line gets really expensive. So if it's not causing any operational issues, we usually just make sure we know where they are in the future and go on. Pipes sag just like catch basins and other things do. So, but we've got a good list of stuff to look at for this year to try to cut down on those areas.
Is that it, Randy?
Yep.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Then we're up to motions, Matt.
All right. First motion, whereas the town of Wheatfield received a request from LI2 Holdings LLC to rezone approximately 46 acres of land in the Woodlands Corporate Center expansion, SBL 177.03-1-81.1, from light industrial M1 to a planned unit development, PUD. And whereas the Wheatfield Planning Board provided formal input on this request at their September 6, 2017 meeting, and whereas the Wheatfield Town Board held the required public hearing on this proposed rezone on November 20th, 2017, and whereas the Wheatfield Town Board has determined the proposed rezoning will not result in any significant negative effect on the environment and has issued a negative declaration, and whereas in the town's comprehensive plan, this area motion of the town is this area of the town is denoted as industrial, but this area is presently mixed use area that includes residential, commercial, and industrial, and includes an area zoned PUD. Therefore, this rezoning meets the intent of the comprehensive plan, and whereas the development meets the intent and objectives of the PUD code, and whereas pursuant to municipal home rule, the town board is proposing to enact a local law which proposes to amend the town zoning map as follows. Be it enacted by the town board of the town of Wheatfield, New York, that the Wheatfield Town Board amends the town zoning map as follows, rezoning approximately 46 acres of land in the Woodlands Corporate Center expansion from light industrial M1 to a planned unit development based on the map entitled PUD area created by CNS Engineers dated August 10th, 2017. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning code of the town of Wheatfield be amended as follows, to amend local law number 1 of 1998 of the Code of the Town of Wheatfield, Chapter 200, entitled Zoning, to provide for a change in the boundary of the zoning map, whereby the zoning is changed from M1 to PUD with the following conditions. The area uses in the commercial area of the plan will be enumerated as in the town PUD law. The map entitled PUD area, created by CNS Engineers, dated August 10th, 2017, represents the preliminary site plan in accordance with Article 7 of the Wheatfield zoning code and will be used to regulate the zoning on the site. Number 3, street lighting will be required within the PUD. Light locations and fixture types for the entire PUD shall be approved by the planning board and town engineer through the required planning board approval process for the final plat. The cost of all lights poles and their installation will be paid for by the applicant. All required lighting must be installed under the town PIP process. And number 4, future development on the site must be in accordance with the map entitled PUD area created by CNS Engineers dated August 10, 2017, and follow the approval procedures as outlined in section 200-52 of the zoning code.
We have to stop paying you by the word, Matt. I'll go ahead and make this motion. We'll need a second to proceed.
Second.
Second by Art. Anything on the question? This has been discussed quite a bit this year for the last 6 months. It's in an area that was M1, but it's just as suitable for additional housing, which is similar to what's already in there. So, anybody else? If nothing else on the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion from the Personnel Director in the Recreation Department to approve the request of Mike Rinaldi to promote 2 groundskeepers, 2 laborers, effective January 1st, 2018.
I'm going to have to,
So moved.
hold off on this. I'll second. Okay, moved by Gil, second by Art. Anything on the question? I'm going to abstain. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? So it's 4-0 and 1, Kathy, and that's approved.
Next motion from the Personnel Director and the Highway Superintendent to post for the hiring of a laborer position in the Highway Department.
I'll second.
Moved by Larry, second by Randy. Anything on this question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion from the Budget Director to approve an amendment to the general fund budget to provide the estimated revenue and budget appropriation for the grant from the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York to provide funds to pay for a portion of the purchase and installation of a security fence at the Nash Road landfill project as follows, and as follows is, I won't read that, it's as presented in the package.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make this motion. Do we have a second? Second by Larry. Ed, do you want to explain why we have to do this at this point? This has to do with the grant which is coming. This is, we don't have that money yet, do we? You're amending next year's budget by the amount of money which we're going to, this year, by the amount of money which we're going to be getting from the state. Great. Thank you. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion, again from the Budget Director, be it resolved, the Town Board does hereby approve the following 2017 budget transfers for the General Fund and Sewer Fund as follows, and that's as presented in the motion packet.
Yeah, it's a long-winded motion. Basically, some funds end up at the end of the year a little short, some funds have a little extra in it. You just wash them out so that at the end of the year, each fund is whole. Moved by Larry, second by Gil. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion from the Town Clerk to approve the purchase of the BAS software for the Town Clerk's office at a cost of $7,880 to be paid from the Town Clerk's 2017 budget.
I'll go ahead and make that motion. Need a second to approve. Second by Larry. Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion again from the town clerk's office to approve the purchase of new carpeting for the town clerk's office for an amount not to exceed $2,009 to be paid from the town clerk's 2017 budget.
So moved.
Bill, second by Randy. Anything on this question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion again from the town clerk to approve the purchase of window treatments for the town clerk's office for the amount of $2,999.55 from budget lines to be paid from the town clerk's 2017 budget.
Anybody?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Art. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Randy. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. That, first, can we go back a little bit? There was
Sure.
something you read. Exactly. In the motion, the first motion, on the bottom of the first page, to amend local law 1-1988, you read 98. Is it 88 or 98?
It's 88. If I read 98, I apologize.
No worries. Okay. Just, it's critical to Kathy's record.
Sure.
Okay. You have some supplementals?
Yes, we have some supplemental motions that came in late from GHD Engineers to accept the completed PIP improvements for pavement and curbs, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, and water line for Ashwood Subdivisions Phase 4, lots 76 through 78, 25 through 34, with the following conditions. Number 1, all outstanding right-of-way dedication paperwork must be reviewed and found acceptable by the town engineer and town attorney. The developer and their attorney will be responsible for filing the required right-of-way dedication and must provide town attorney with a filed copy of the documents prior to issuance of any building permits for Phase 4 lots. Number 2, developer must provide proof that the required sanitary sewer and storm sewer easements relative to Phase 4 have been filed. If this cannot be provided, the developer and their attorney must file these easements after review and approval by the town attorney and provide filed copies of the documents to the town attorney prior to the issuance of any building permits for Phase 4 lots. Number 3, in accordance with SPDES, general permit for stormwater discharges from construction activities, all disturbed areas of the site must be stabilized. And then we had one last late condition was added, number 4, installation of the landscape berm, sound barrier, including stockade fence and plantings along the south side of lots 32 and 34, must be completed per the approved drawings by no later than June 30th, 2018.
Okay, do we have anybody wish to make a motion? Moved by Art. I'll go ahead and second. Paul, everything look good there? I see that you plowed the road this weekend. I'll bet it does. And the school bus is probably real happy too. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion goes along with that subdivision from GHD Engineers and Town Attorney. Motion to accept the maintenance bond associated with the Ashwood Subdivision Phase 4 roadway and curbs.
Moved by Larry, second by Gil. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Okay. Next motion is from Town Board and Town Attorney to authorize the Town Attorney to compose and send correspondence to Special Counsel, the Honorable Douglas W. Markey, requesting appointment of a temporary Justice Court Judge, to wit, the Honorable Kevin Mack of Pendleton, to preside over the Town Justice Court sessions of the late Honorable John J. Mateo until a replacement Town Justice is appointed by the Court. Said request shall indicate the Town shall compensate the temporary Justice Court Judge on a pro rata basis based on Wheatfield Town Justice salary for the period of time serving in said capacity.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make that motion. I do need... Second by Larry. We had a big meeting this morning with Judge Markey here. Matt was here, Larry and I, and the clerks. I'm probably missing one or two who were there. And looking at process, everything is so new. None of us have ever been through it, including Judge Markey and including Judge Stelabio. And there is a process we're going to have to follow, and the town board to be, the next town board will have to make the decision as to how they want to proceed. They need a little bit of time to be able to make that decision. So we're going to be offering the position to a neighbor judge who will sit in on John's court. There are still other questions that have to be answered. We haven't had them answered yet, but it comes as a little bit of a shock, but we do have to move fairly quickly because there is a calendar in place and there are checks coming in which don't have a signer. That being said, is there anything further on the question?
Yes, I think we discussed in our meeting this morning, or right around lunchtime, that the case is probably, the judges, I think, is paid bi-weekly. So, if we could document that in here, it's probably easier so that someone's not wondering, how we're gonna pay, Judge Mack, but, I think we were gonna take the justice pay, which is a salary, and divided by 26. The 26 equal payment, and then each, time that, he would work, I guess he would turn in a voucher for cleaning, and the town board would approve that voucher, on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, then. So if we could document, how we were coming to terms with pay, I think, Honorable, Judge Markey said that that'd probably be a fair way of compensating them.
I have in there be compensated on a pro rata basis. I can also add bi-weekly.
Okay.
Okay, I will accept the modification. Larry, you accept the modification, I assume?
Yes.
So we're dealing with a slightly modified motion. Is there anything else on the question? If nothing, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
And I believe we had one more late motion. It's a request from the town of Amherst. Whereas the town of Amherst, New York celebrates its bicentennial in the year of 2018, and it's fitting to recognize the town of Amherst on the occasion of this special milestone and to applaud its distinguished history. And whereas the town of Amherst was officially created on April 10th, 1818, from part of the town of Buffalo, later known as the city of Buffalo, has a total of 53.28 square miles, is the largest town in Erie County, New York, and includes the village of Williamsville, as well as the hamlets of Eggertsville, Gettsville, Snyder, Swarmville, and East Amherst. And whereas in the 19th century, Amherst was a prosperous farming community with 7 grist mills, several sawmills, a tannery, and boot and shoe factory, 2 forges with commercial activity centered in Williamsville. And whereas the town grew from being preliminary a farming community to an urban community in the 20th century with the creation of new subdivisions, the building of the University of Buffalo campus in Amherst, and the location of Millard Fillmore Suburban Hospital within the town. And whereas the town today is comprised of 125,000 residents and provides many facilities and attractions, including 4-rink recreational facility that attracts national and international ice tournaments, a state-of-the-art senior center, 3 libraries, and a state park. And whereas the town of Amherst will proudly mark its 200th anniversary with a series of celebrations throughout its bicentennial year, beginning on January 1st, 2018, with the 200th birthday party, and continuing with the gigantic parade, historic walking tour, slogan contest, interclub service club, luncheon, and gala bicentennial ball. And whereas in recognition of the town of Amherst's rich history and enduring contributions, it is indeed an honor to pay tribute to the town upon the occasion of its bicentennial. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Wheatfield, congratulations, are sent to the town of Amherst on their bicentennial, and the town and its residents are to be enthusiastically recognized as they celebrate this auspicious occasion. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution, suitably engrossed, be transmitted to the town of Amherst Bicentennial Commission.
I make that motion.
Second. Moved by Larry, second by Art. Perhaps Debbie can turn that into a proclamation and send that to them as a proclamation. Anything on the question?
Looking at, this in the corridor upstairs, see how much, older the town of Amherst is. I found the story was great. When will we go? Yeah, that's what it's but, they're about 20 years older than us.
Yeah, when you go back to the early years, they were 1 year, it's like they took turns being supervisor. NL Ward was a year, and then it went to somebody else, and then somebody else, and then NL Ward again, and the history of Wheatfield isn't out there. You can't find it, but I'll bet it's really interesting. Okay, we have a motion before us, gentlemen. Anything further on the question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
I have no further motions.
Okay, Matt, thank you. Councilman Helwig, anything?
Because, we really needed his help at a time where, Wheatfield needs some help. And Supervisor Bob Cliff, I thank you for stepping in 8 years ago or 8.5 years ago and, taking that challenge.
Thank you.
That being said, when the meeting's adjourned, probably in about 6 minutes and 20 seconds or so, we're going to have some cake and some, I think there's some hot coffee if it's still hot. But we're going to have a cake to celebrate Art Gerbeck and Bob Cliff's time in the town board. So hopefully everyone stays around. You're not in a hurry to go home and watch football games or anything yet. So
It's not very often you get to see Larry baking a cake.
my granddaughter's got an easy bake oven. It was hard getting it in there.
That's where it was. Okay, anything else? If not, then Councilman Doucette.
I got correspondence from the Burkles Fire Hall. Burkles would like to add Emily Harrell to their active roster, and I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved. Is that it, Gil?
And I'd just like to go along with what Larry add on to it a little bit. Bob and Art, thank you very much for everything. Bob, thanks for the direction you took us in. It was always a pleasure working with both of them whenever we had discussion on things, even if we didn't agree. Them two guys would always listen to what everybody had to say, and we'd work it out. It's been a pleasure working with both of you.
Thank you, Gil. Thank you, Gil. Art, I guess it's up to you.
I have nothing in particular in the way of business this evening. I want to thank you folks out there in the public for giving me the opportunity to become one of the councilmen for the town of Wheatfield here. I've enjoyed my 9 years being on the board, especially with the gentlemen up here, Supervisor Cliff, Larry Howard, Gil Doucette, and Randy Retzlaff. And the addition, Matt and Kathy, too, as I consider them still part of the family that's up here. They're all very supportive folks. I've had a good time with them. They listen to you, and we actually have fun doing what we do. So I want to thank you all for the support we got, and I look forward to going on to other things. Thank you.
Randy.
Real quickly, I followed up a letter from the DOT about the speed limit and the problems at Hoover and Lockport Road. Talked to a guy I went to college with many, many years ago. He works for the DOT, and he wasn't aware that when the county turned us over to the DOT about the fatality there in spring of this year. He also was not aware of the accident, the 2 accidents about 3 weeks ago. So he's going to look up some safety records and get back to me and give me some answers in January. One thing he did mention was, there's always a possibility of a or a traffic signal there, which obviously is money. Lowering the speed limit would be nothing. He's talking about 85 percentile of the traffic is 57 miles an hour. If you lower the speed limit, you'd have more problem. I said, well, Dave, you got to enforce it. If it's 57 and it's 45, you got to enforce it. So, and I tried to explain with the farmers that you can't get on the road because people are flying up the road. So he's going to look at it and get back to us or to me, and I'll report back as to what their answer. But like I say, he was unaware of the problems at that intersection. He basically sits in Buffalo and says, yeah, it's Lockport Road, and wrote a letter. So he's gonna look into it, and I'll have a report back. And thank you very much for working. I'm the new guy here. Thank you very much for your time. Bob took me around 4 years ago on the primary, and I knew a little bit of Bob, and he really knows this town. And he's, Mike Rinaldi said several weeks ago, every awards banquet he's at, every event that happens, he's at, and he really put a lot of time, heart, and soul. And Bob, thank you, and Art, thank you also for your time. And it's been enjoyable.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Well, I guess it's my turn. There's so many people to thank, you can't start, you can't finish anywhere. Mike, when he took over the picnic committee, you remember the picnic committee had died. The picnic was basically non-existent. And Mike took it over and got people like Jim Hoyer and Nancy Rosie and several others, and they've done a marvelous job of bringing the picnic back to life. It's so much better. It is Wheatfield's big day. Every one of the department heads, from Kathy to Rich to Paul, Art before Paul, Mike Rinaldi, God, I hate to forget anybody. The work that they do, they truly show that they love this town, they love their job, and they make life easy on somebody like me because they're so competent and so good at what they do. Ed Mongold, I don't know what I would do without Ed. We probably wouldn't have survived all these years. Probably never would have gotten out from underneath the hole we were in without his assistance. He's calm, he's quiet, he never hollers, he never complains, but he knows this budget like the back of his hand. It's just phenomenal, and I thank you, Ed. The volunteers, Richard Muscatello, the work that he does with the task force and the others on the task force. Justin has been on it, I think, all 8 years probably. There's 35 or 40 different volunteers at any moment in time working for the benefit of the town, not for their own benefit. The firemen. I don't know how many firemen. We probably have 150, 170 active firemen in town, and probably that many again who are either fire police or inactive members who still help out the halls. Where would we be without them? So I see several firemen in the room, Mark, certainly, and it's just Scott, Jim's a fireman, Paul's a fireman, Rich certainly is a fireman. I think that Rich is back to being chief again. I don't know where the town would be without the volunteer firemen. So I appreciate all of that. And more than anything, I appreciate the confidence of all the folks who Wheatfield. Campaigns are hard. Campaigns are an awful lot of work. They're one of the reasons why most good people don't want to run. It's a very difficult thing unless you happen to get lucky like Randy this year and Don this year, without opposition. That makes it easy, but when you get in the job, it's still hard. There's still a lot of difficulty when you're facing problems like the landfill, when we're facing drainage problems at Wilrose Court or Eagle Chase. You know, we didn't create the problem. We do our best to try and resolve the problem. And there's no easy solution to something like the landfill. We did get the fence up. That fence could have been put up in 1981 when it was first recommended. It could have been up in 85 when they did their secondary report to the DEC. Asked the board to put up a fence. Chose not to. We got it done. It wasn't because of the lawsuit, because the lawsuit actually followed suit after we had already approved the fence. But it will help with that in the future. Hopefully there won't be anybody else going back there, if that is indeed how they were made ill. And it's been a pleasure, but like all things, they come to an end. I told the guys 8 years ago that I'd be here a maximum of 8 years if I stayed that long. It's time for other ideas. It's time for another person. Don, your opportunity starts in a couple of weeks. Really, it starts right now because you're already working on your next meeting. It's important. I hope that you work with your department heads and that they work as well with you as they have with me. an awful lot to appreciate. And then there's Debbie. Debbie pitched in when Fran asked to move on for a different position for security reasons, for her future reasons. Fran was certainly a massive help to me for 7 years. Debbie pitched in and said she'll take it. And Debbie does a great job. She's an awfully good face here in the town hall when people come in and ask questions. And Kathy's department, that's often the first face you see when you come into the town hall is Kathy's or Nancy's. What a phenomenal job they do. And it's always done for the betterment of the people of Wheatfield. And Kathy, we thank you for that. All that said, I sure hope I didn't forget anybody. I'm sure I did. Gary, I wish you luck in your new position. It's going to be an interesting start. But if there is anything I can do, feel free to ask. And that said, our next meeting is Wednesday, January 3rd. It won't be my next meeting. It'll be Don's next meeting, and that'll be the reorganization meeting. Don, you're going to have that at 5 o'clock? What I'm reading here is it's 5 o'clock that night for the reorg meeting? Are we having a regular meeting after that, or just the reorg? Just the reorg that night. And at that meeting, you'll set your calendar for next year, I presume. We are back to public input. Anybody who wishes to speak on anything before the town? Fran?
Thank you for helping me out with that Wheatfield report, buying that property. I feel a little safer now that I'll be able to get out. I mean, we've been working on that for 15 years, although it's not hard. No, it is safe. But in the spring, when it, we all supplied, and now we all see stuff in there, so I'm glad you actually took this, I mean, it just looks an option to do what day we went and got it, so I appreciate it.
It's a good thing you brought it up. If you hadn't brought it up, we probably wouldn't have done it.
I don't know what you knew about it, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys working on it so hard.
Thank you, Fran. Anybody else? If not, Kathy?
Yep. I just want to let everyone know, and I'm sorry it's right before the holidays, but I did go to Niagara County and pick up our tax bills today. So the due date is January 31st. I have to do some work on them, and so they'll be going out in the mail a little bit early. So tax bills are here and will be mailed out. If you don't get one, we send out 8,600 tax bills, and some of them with the mail, whatever. If you should get a tax bill and you don't have it within like the second week of January, give our office a call and we'll get you a duplicate copy. And sometimes there should be an escrow or not an escrow, and those changes take some time. So you can always call and talk to us about that. But just wanted to give you a heads up, they're here. And like everybody else, Bob, thank you very much. Enjoy your retirement from the town. Art, same. It was a pleasure working with both of you over the years, and with everything that we've done, and thank you for everything you've done for the town of Wheatfield.
Thank you. Anybody else? Justin? Thank you. Okay, anybody else? If not, then I'll request a motion to adjourn.
So moved.